Welcome to Vintage Vehicle Videos. We're going to start out our tape today with a trip to the Automotive Hall of Fame, located right next door to the Henry Ford Museum.
Hello, I'm Jeff Liestma, President of the Automotive Hall of Fame. I'm often asked, what is the Automotive Hall of Fame? And the answer is quite simple. We're the Cooperstown of the automotive industry. Often people go to Cooperstown to see the heroes of baseball, and they come to the Automotive Hall of Fame to see the heroes of the auto industry. We currently have 194 inductees into the Automotive Hall of Fame, and they come from all parts of the industry and from around the world. And when someone is inducted into the Automotive Hall of Fame, what happens is they get their name and their signature engraved in these granite tablets, which is a way of symbolizing the permanence of that honor. You'll notice we have famous names, Sloan, Ford, Chrysler, Thomas Edison, Soichiro Honda, Toyota, Benz, Daimler, Maybach, really from all over the world, and as I said, from around the industry. You'll notice along the wall here we have an original piece of automotive art. We think it's the second largest single piece of automotive original art in the world, and what it really does is it symbolizes the history of the auto industry from the very early beginnings all the way through the turn of the century, through the 50s, and even towards the modern day, when we have racing and solar powered vehicles and such. But again, it's all original art, and it's the highlight of our Hall of Fame here. In the museum section of the Automotive Hall of Fame, we begin to tell the stories of our inductees in greater depth. As well, we also have a good variety of artifacts that tell those stories. For example, we have a replica of the world's first gasoline-powered vehicle, the Daimler motor bicycle. Again, we were very fortunate to have a replica of the first gasoline-powered vehicle, the Benz three-wheeler. In addition to the artifacts, we tell the stories of these heroes of the auto industry in a variety of ways. For example, we have dioramas that begin to tell. This is the one that tells the story of Ransom Olds.
A curved dash Oldsmobile was practically noiseless. It was the best thing on wheels.
As we continue our journey through the museum, it begins to tell these stories in a chronological way. We have Henry Ford over here, Walter P. Chrysler over here. And as we continue to move through time in the museum, we notice that the industry changes from more of a chronological nature to one of a more topical nature. And that's because the industry itself, about 1910 or so, began to fragment. You no longer had these pioneers that did everything. You began to have designers who specialized in designing the cars, and engineers, and people who were dedicated to selling the cars and building the cars and so forth. And the whole supplier industry began to evolve as well. So the industry began to change from this one of being one of a host of pioneers to a host of specialists. The Hall of Fame is really about people, and so some of our visitors who come expecting to see a lot of automobiles might be disappointed. It's like going to Cooperstown to see a baseball game. You don't do that. You go there to see the heroes of baseball, to see their bats, their gloves, their jerseys. But even so, we do have some vehicles here that we rotate on a quarterly basis. For example, right here, we currently have a 1933 Stutz Monte Carlo, which is just a gorgeous automobile. But again, it rotates on a quarterly basis. So when you come here next, I'm sure this car will not be here, but another very classic, very special automobile certainly will be in the showcase. People come to the Automotive Hall of Fame and expect to see the famous names like Ford and Benz and Toyota and so forth. But there are other people here who have had a significant impact on the automotive industry, one being Warren Avis. Now everyone is familiar with Avis Rent-A-Car and so forth, and Warren Avis did not invent the rental car business. What Warren Avis did was create this notion of renting cars at the airport. Prior to Warren Avis, people would fly into a town, take a cab down to the city, and then rent their car. And what Warren did is set up a variety of relationships with airlines so that you could also not only get your airline ticket but rent a car at the same time. And when we talk about human mobility, this idea of Warren Avis really propelled the notion of mankind moving around more freely. Another one of our less famous inductees is Ralph Teeter. Now what Ralph Teeter did was he invented the cruise control, something that we all take for granted today. And this is his actual demonstrator model that he took to Chrysler Corporation in the 1950s to sell his idea. Now what's interesting about Ralph Teeter is that not only did he invent the cruise control, but the fact that Ralph Teeter was totally blind. This is one of my personal favorites here at the Automotive Hall of Fame, and it tells the story of Soichiro Honda. We have on display an S800 race car from the 1960s, something that most Americans are unfamiliar with. But what I like about this display is it not only tells about Honda's life story, but it has some hardware. It has an automobile. It talks about his philosophy. It talks about his personal life as well, even to the extent that we have some personal artifacts of Soichiro Honda. We have a watercolor that he painted himself, and we actually have the actual brushes and watercolors that he worked with. But most importantly, we have his personal hanko. And for those familiar with Japanese, the hanko is a personal stamp that is really actually has more legal significance than a signature. And the fact that we have this personal artifact of Soichiro Honda is a very special thing for us. The Automotive Hall of Fame is open 7 days a week, closed on Mondays during the winter. And we get about 30,000 to 40,000 visitors a year, and we certainly hope that you would also look forward to joining us. We'd love to have you visit us and see what automotive history is all about as told through the heroes of the auto industry.